It's an exciting Monday afternoon. We are here once again to take a look at issues as it concerns this great continent, Africa, on the program Africa Discourse. I am Wilson Omasho. Since apologies for starting slightly behind schedule, it was due to some circumstances beyond our control. Before we go into the topic of today, there are some things that you need to know coming out from your continent. Do you know that Rwanda right now, it's amongst the largest wind conversion rate into energy in Africa? They call it wind farm. We are still here in Nigeria battling with turbines, river. Other countries have gone into exploiting wind, that is air, to turn it into electricity, into power. Rwanda, they have the largest farm right now, wind farm. Food for thought. Anyway, today is all about what is happening in Zambia. Citizens came out in mass to start protesting against corruption. It is Edgar Lunga is still in the picture, the president of Zambia. A few months ago, the finance minister resigned, saying that she just can't cope with the corruption anymore. But the government chose to issue a statement saying that she was fired. And right now, the citizens came out also to say, look, enough is enough of this corruption. Enough is enough of food shortages. Enough is enough for you adding prices to our fuel pump price. What in the world is going on? Citizens taken out to the streets. That is going to form the cause of our discussion today in Africa Discourse. With me here in the studio, I have a legal practitioner, so you'll call me a male chauvinist. Yeah, a woman is here with me, a very intelligent woman. Join me to welcome a barrister, Adoro Eboibe. Welcome to the show, madam. I appreciate your comment.
Thank you so much.
All right. Now, it's all about Africa. We just can't move our gaze off this continent when we talk about Africa Discourse. There have been series of protests against government. At first, it happened in Algeria when Abdulflika, though he was like, wheelchair ridden, so to speak, he said he wants to contest again for a presidential election. Algerians, they came out abroad, diaspora, even within the environment to protest against it, and that was upturned. In the time of Morsi also, when he says he wants supreme power, the Egyptians came out in mass to say, no, it cannot happen. There was a change. When you go deep down also into various countries in Africa, it's like one form of protest or the other just keep on emanating. And here we are. Zambia is not left out. How do you feel about this?
Well, I feel it's a it's a highly welcome development, because essentially this issue of corruption is a plague that virtually cuts across the African continent. Virtually all the countries in Africa, they are suffering from the endemic implications associated with corruption. You have a hike in fuel prices, inaccessibility to medical care, difficulties, hardship, food shortages associated with corruption. All the problems associated with corruption, they are at their apex in African countries. So when you now see nations in Africa rising up to the challenge to say, no, enough is enough, we've seen enough of corruption. First of all, the people that make up the country, they've identified that corruption is a plague that will destroy their country if it is not stopped, and they are able to speak out. I feel it's a very high and a highly welcome development that what should be encouraged, because this issue of corruption is the bedrock of all the societal problems we're experiencing in our African continent. The African continent has the highest rate of what? Immigration. If their countries were so good, why would they be immigrating? And what is the cause behind all these challenges? It is basically corruption in all phases, usually all phases of society, within the executive, within the police, within the judiciary, in the educative sector, in the healthcare sector. We have what? Menace of what? Corruption, which is destroying the fabrics of society. And really, if corruption is not stopped, very soon, what country will we pass down to our children? So when we see nations rising up and speaking, like in Zambia, there was this peaceful protest. They were giving their government yellow card, saying enough is enough. And if you continue, we'll soon give you what? red card. Other countries what should emulate it, because whether we like it or not, corruption is a plague. It's a menace, and it is destroying what society. All the crimes. Look at countries, you have issues of money rituals, kidnapping, terrorism, all at what an endemic rate. All these crimes, they can all be linked to what? Failure in a society, systematic failure of society, all boiling down to what? The issue of corruption. And it cuts across virtually all fragments of society, and it should be frowned upon. So when African nations rise up, when the people realize that their birthrights are being taken by a few, the wealth of the nation is what being plunged by a few, and they decide to speak out instead of dying, because they have a choice. Either they speak out or they die in silence. Some countries, they will prefer to die in silence. You hear people dying of all kinds of ailments, insecurity. All of this boils down what? Basically to corruption. If there is no corruption in the military, issues of insecurity would have long ago been abated within African countries. If the money meant to purchase weapons for the military personnel that are actually used for that purpose, issues of crime would have long what? Been abated. Hardship, if the money meant to serve the people, the democratic people of a society, if they actually used to serve those people, these issues of crime that is now occurring at a rate that is almost as if the society cannot withhold itself again, it would have what? Long been abated. So instead of the people to die in silence because no, I don't want to protest, I don't want problems, I don't want to put it behind bars, instead of them to agree to die in silence, they should what? Use their energies what? Positively, and what? Protest against corruption in government.
All right, now you can see what is there right now in your screen. Courtesy African News, giving yellow card to the Zambian government led by Edgar Lungu. Now, Edgar is the president of Zambia, and he made so much promises to them. Here are the citizens protesting, carrying yellow cards, saying if time isn't taken, we're going to give you a red card. That means it may turn sour. Before we go into the possibility of it turning into a red card, do you think that this protest is sponsored by opposition in the government of Zambia? Because you get to hear this is the handiwork of opposition.
You know, as it's occurring in Zambia, this kind of incident is also similar to what is occurring in many African countries, whereby a government enters power and he tends to tilt towards what we call authoritarian rule. Even though he enters democratically, when you are trying to silence the opposition, you are giving room for what? Autocratic system of government. So when you hear the government saying, oh, people are protesting because they were incited by the opposition, let the opposition talk. That is why they are there. There is need for what? Opposition to bring about what we call checks and balances. That is the way you can see that a government does not what? Abuse its power. So when the government is attacking the opposition, you know that he wants to tilt towards the autocratic rule and abuse his power. And the truth is that it's actually immaterial if they were sponsored by the opposition, because issues of corruption, the problems associated with corruption is what affects the common man the most. Because in Zambia, you have over 60% of the people, the population living what? Under poverty line. A country that is functioning effectively, a country that is not bedeviled with corruption, will not have that amount or that percentage or that fraction of people living what? Under poverty line. Because corruption directly gives birth to what? Poverty. Endemic and systemic what? Poverty. Hardship. The people cannot what? Access healthcare. And that's why I see in African countries, the politicians experience what they call medical tourism. When they have headache, they travel out. When they have back pain, they travel out. But at the end of the masses, they are forced, or they remain with what? The healthcare system that has been destroyed by this same what? Political class. And at the end of the day, you see that their life expectancy rate becomes what? Very, very low. So it's not an issue of whether they were actually sponsored by the opposition. It's a matter of the facts before them. Are they living within a maximum and reasonable standard of conditions of living? Is their standard of life reasonable? Are they suffering under hardship? Is education accessible to every person in society? Is there employment to every sector of society? Is government what? Creating employment? When they go to the police station, is there easy access to justice without you paying kickbacks here and there? Or the money meant for development, infrastructural development, is it carried away or carted away by a few in the society? When the people realize that they are suffering, cost of living is difficult, there is increasing rate of crime, and they are dying gradually. You know, at times the prevalence of death, the death rate in some of these African countries that are in the middle of war, they don't suffer what some African countries are suffering because of what corruption, where the wealth of the nation is in the hands of very few. You see what we call endemic what corruption. In Zambia, for instance, 85% of people are all engaged in what agriculture. What about the white-collar jobs? It is meant what for only the elite, children of the political class. So these are the issues that are making them to now say, okay, we have gotten to the peak, we have gotten to the end of the road, and we cannot take it again. We have to fight, or we will destroy this country, and we have no country what to live for our children. People are all running. All over African countries, people are running. If we're looking at our country, Nigeria, people are laboring to migrate by all costs, because the living conditions are becoming what unbearable, all because of what corruption. Otherwise, the funds are there, the resources are there, they are allocated, but a few people in position, they use it for their singular benefit to the detriment of the masses. So it's largely immaterial if they were actually what sponsored by the opposition, because the opposition in any viable democratic society is meant to stand as what we call effective check and balance on the activities of government, so that the government does not abuse its power, the government does not what abuse its resources. So any responsible government in the first place has no business complaining if the opposition, they are inciting people. If you walk, there's no basis for them to incite people to come out to the streets. Over 400,000 Zambians came out protesting bad leadership, corruption, difficulties. If things were working when people were in their offices, they received their salaries when and as when due, there will be no need for that kind of a mass protest against government.
Sorry for what you're saying now, whether it's being sponsored by opposition, it is what is on the ground. That is what people are reacting to. Exactly. Now you give us a fact about Zambia being an agrarian society, 85% into agriculture, but now the government of Zambia is saying that this inflation is occasioned by the debt profile. I don't think they should just endure for a while till the government is able to, find a level playing field to stabilize the economy. You made it clear to them that, look, we are indebted.
That's where the issue, the challenge comes from. They are indebted. The indebtedness, the cost of that indebtedness, is it for the benefit of the masses? When the country goes into debt for the benefit of a few, and the masses, they are now laboring and suffering from the effect of the few, do you expect them to be happy? There's nothing to be about it, because Zambia, there are still individuals that own over 40, 50 houses. When you have people in that same country that cannot feed or eat 3 times a day. So the inequality, the discrimination, the hardship that goes with corruption, the real issue, the pivotal problem in that country, what is corruption? Misappropriation of funds. If funds were effectively managed, they will not first of all be what indebted in the first place. And then having been indebted, they are sinking into more debt, but they are still what? Being corrupt. Zambia is extremely corrupt. The people came out to protest against the corruption in the country to the detriment of the masses. So the government does not have any ready excuse for the continuous hardship suffered by people, but to rather purge itself and put effective machineries on ground to what check corruption, because it runs through all phases of the society, and at the end of the day, it's the masses that suffer the brunt of all these actions.
All right, now, still talking about corruption, because Edgar is there. It led to a controversial issue right now. The finance minister says she resigned, while Edgar said she was fired. Do you think that she knows more about what is going on in government, hence she chose to resign, or she was warned and fired? Because after her resignation, she didn't say anything before these protests really started.
Well, in any normal functioning society, as an executive member of government, if you do not agree or you are not in line with the policies and the principles of that government, the honorable thing to do is what? To resign. That is in any normal functioning society. Just that in Africa, it's a misnomer to see an executive member of government actually resigning because of this same issue of corruption. So if there is so much corruption, because if you go through the index, if you look at the records, you see that Zambia is actually being plagued in virtually all sectors with corruption. And she decides to resign because she is not comfortable with those policies. I think she has acted in good faith, although the government now says, okay, she was forced to resign. Whether she was forced to resign or she actually resigned, the issue is that there was an issue of corruption. And she said because of the corruption in government, which she does not agree with, it's against her principles, she has been forced to resign. I think it's a wake-up call on the government to try to put enough machinery on ground to curb this issue of corruption instead of bringing out excuses. And then the people of Zambia, they should do more than just waging peaceful protest. Because when the government tends to tilt towards authoritarian rule, peaceful protest without more will not cure the problem. They've taken the first step by stating their observations and their reservations against the corruption and hardship in society. They should now do more to see that the government is forced to put effective machineries on ground. The woman resigned because she was not comfortable with the system. That the system is rejecting her because she does not fit into that system, and the system is plagued with corruption.
Okay, we want to go for a break. When we return, we'll talk more on this particular topic. You get to see Zambians coming out carrying yellow card, brandishing yellow card to the government, saying, we've had it up to here. After the yellow card, what do you think will come up next? We'll be right back after this break. Do stay with us. Fundamental quotes there to really get you to think about the situations and circumstances in the country, and of course to encourage you to do something positive for yourself and for your country. Today is all about Zambia's protest fight against fuel hike and corruption. Just joining us right now in the studio is a political analyst, Comrade Victor Ogba. Comrade, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Wilson, for having me.
All right, jokingly, you just coming back from Zambia. Yes. Seriously, I just got my yellow t-shirts. And so, well, our legal practitioner here, she's been talking much about corruption that is endemic in Africa as a continent. She went deep down also, reading out some facts that led to the people in Zambia to come out in mass to protest, giving their government yellow card. Before you know it again, it may turn into a red card. But nobody prays for that for Zambia. How do you feel about this?
Well, for me, I feel happy. It has come to a point where we have to take our destiny in our hands. The issue of Zambia is not different from anywhere in Africa. It has been discovered that the problem we have in this country is not just bad governance. It is corruption. Corruption itself has become so more, corruption in Nigeria now has gone so worse than the era of military dictatorship. As a matter of fact, if the Zambia did not go the way they are going now, all the progress one would have made as a nation would just go down. A country that is known for corruption has been merged into corruption, and you want everybody to keep quiet. It's so bad that ministers in the cabinet are resigning just because of, say, corruption. What's the former minister for finance, Calabar, whatever they call him? Yeah. He resigned. That the way that the government is taking the issue of corruption is something is not comfortable. Even though people are saying that it was a political scope, but whatever it is, there are people in the cabinet right now that are even going to face, that are facing trial for corrupt cases. As a matter of fact, if you look at the index, according to the international Transparency International, out of 108 or 180 countries on that list, Zambia is ranking 98th worst corrupt country in the world. So at a point, if they are not going the direction they are going now, then it will go to a point that they may not have a country. Like one of them said, is it Miti? He said, if we don't fight corruption like this, very soon we will not have Zambia any longer. So it has become a norm in Africa that as soon as you get into power by hook or crook, as soon as you live there, you must go and live life larger than the country. And it has, if you just check most of the African countries, this is the thing. So I think that, yes, I give them kudos, like I just jokingly said, I just put my t-shirt, my yellow t-shirt for the yellow card. I think that the way Nigeria came together to fight against dictatorship, military dictatorship, this is how Africans should come together and fight corruption. Or else, corruption will finish us and we will not have an Africa to stay. It will get to a point. Somebody jumped into a plane that was taking out of Africa. That is where we are heading to. So for me, I commend them. Why I say I will commend them. In the face of all this same government is brutalizing people, bullying people from even talking. Children, for the other time they had a little protest over one scam transaction they did of about $1 billion. And people came out to talk about what is it? They arrested them. Both Mitty and is it Paulino or whatever? Yeah. They were all arrested. And this is becoming a norm. So let everybody come out. How many people? Let them just arrest the entire people. So I think that the voice of the people is the voice of God. And this may make a difference. It may not lead to red card. But if they insist, of course, if that is the will, it may lead to red card. So for me, I'm happy about it. I commend them. That the beautiful sister, so I commend them.
Beautiful sister, the white, the blacks coming together to say yellow card to corruption. Now, like what he rightly said, there was a case of $1 million printed. Nobody knows the whereabouts of that amount in a particular country in Africa. Questions were asked, but it was pushed under the carpet, so to speak. Do you see this protest having an impact? After all, this is not the first time African nations are protesting. Is it going to change anything, madam?
Well, in all sincerity, protesting like this is just stating the obvious, the displeasure, their obvious displeasure against the endemic corruption bedeviling the society, which without much ado, all that our political leaders know that the people in the country, they are all pained by the corruption in society. So just coming out to do peaceful protest without more in the African continent will not produce the desired result. That is the honest truth, because in Africa we love power. We want to hold on to power and positions at all costs and by all means. We must do more than just mere peaceful protest to get what the desired result, because the truth is that it's a system, it's a pattern. When they get into office, first of all, they secure their families. You say a country is not corrupt, you say things are going well, why are you sending your children abroad to go and study? If you believe in the educational system in your country, let your children also study here, just the same way every other person is studying, because generally there are some fundamental laws of nature that all human beings are supposed to be equal before the law. But in African countries, the opposite is what we experience. When they get into power, when they corruptly embezzle the money of society, they send their children, they send their wards abroad for educational purposes, for healthcare and all of that, and they will do everything and anything possible to remain in power. And that is why they now tend to tilt, even though in quote it will be called a democratically elected government, but in quote they will do anything to remain there. And what are the things they do? That's why you have so much electoral malpractice, so much rigging, so much petitions after election results have been called. You hear petitions here and there because the elections are not seen to be free and fair, because of the desperation to remain in power and in position to continue to eat and take the national case. So just protesting, this is what every leader knows the people what they are going through. They are suffering hardship. If they don't know, why do they go abroad for healthcare? If our healthcare system is so good, why do they travel? Why do they travel for healthcare? If our educational system is so good, why did they send their children abroad to get tertiary degrees and other degrees? If the security is so good, why do they send their wards out of the country to make sure that they are secure? Because they have destroyed and ruined this country. They are aware of this fact. So by merely protesting, they are only telling them the obvious. We should do more than protesting. African nations, the population that is suffering the brunt of this corruption, because it's in two phases. The upper class, they are not suffering the brunt. They are benefiting from the corruption in the society. They are getting fat. They are securing their children. They are securing their generations. They are all doing well. They are all running abroad. But the population, the masses that make up the majority, they are the ones that should not come together and decide. Either we try to speak and get results, or we die trying to speak and get results. Either way, they may all end up going the same way if they do not speak, because Nigerians are suffering. All over Africa, within the African nations, that's where you have the highest prevalence of what? Hardship and poverty. And except they speak, those masses will not have any country to call their own. And they will not even have the alternative of what? Relocating or running away. Unlike the bourgeois in society, the political class that have destroyed society, they have securely secure the futures of their children. They all have what we call dual citizenship, but the masses, they don't have. So just apart from protesting peacefully like this, which is the first step, which any reasonable government should take heed and say, oh, these people, they have gotten what to their breaking point, let us retract our steps. But the way it is, if this is not enough, then they should do more than this and hold on more frequent concerted protests to express their displeasure in government. And after that, they should try to go on what we call massive strikes. There are many actions the population can do to actually sensitize the government about their hardship. But when people feel, oh no, it's not my business, I will survive, if this one can survive, I will survive, in their numbers gradually they are dying what we call silently, or to the detriment of the society as a whole. All
right, now if you take a look at the case of Sudan, it was a sustained protest. It turned violent, it turned bloody, and of course they got result because Bashar was shown the exit door. Do you see this protest in Zambia degenerating to that extent? Victor?
Yeah, you see, Africa is a very dynamic continent. We are like one. Our characters are the same. Our characters are the same. Yes, it's true. And let me tell you something about this country. When you say you protest and the protest end like that, and nothing happened, when an African man is pushed to do protests, you know what I mean by push? I have an NGO who want to talk so that the world will know that we are talking. Yes, we want UN to recognize that we are pursuing the struggle. Or we want to get, let us hit the society today so that they will not say, Jigigi Association organization organize the protest, you shake everywhere. They will go home and sleep and be waiting for it. How the press we capture it, yeah. And they quickly buy the paper. A vendor, keep 7 for me. Such kind of protest goes nowhere. But if you look at the point where they are convinced, they are determined, nobody will give their transport fare to go and assemble. Several of that happened during the time of the June 12th crisis. During the days of Babangida and Abacha must go, several of these happened. A situation whereby the third level people were being shot. From third level people were being shot and some were falling to the river directly.
We want to go into the gory history right now. Let's go forward.
What I'm trying to say is that that did not even stop the people. People were still pumping in. Then look at the most recent one. At the time Nigeria said, oh, there was a fight. And everybody said, occupy till you change your mind. And of course, the result came.
Do you see Zambia doing the same?
My brother, that is why I'm telling you now that the way it is going, when the man came back and set himself ablaze and said we must die, people thought that it was a joke. And it did not just only stop there. It was almost becoming an Arab Spring. So for me, it is shameful. When a first lady will leave his country and say he's going to get fire brigade equipment, that they are donating fire brigade equipment for the person, and he's leaving his country with a large entourage to go and receive the water fire brigade equipment that they want to dash them. By the time they calculated the cost of carrying the entire entourage and the cost of the entire logistics, when they calculated them all, they realized that the money that they have spent would have been enough to buy double of what they wanted to go and receive. And as Africa cannot become a livestock, so that is enough to anger anybody. That is enough to stir anybody up. You think it's a joke. If you see these people, if you look at the people protesting, it's not just, you're not just seeing some haggard youths. You are seeing both girls, both women, both men. So you are seeing the unusual faces. That's to tell you that it has gone to that point. And I pray like my sister said, I pray that the fire keep burning, because I know that as soon as it ends with Zambia successfully, it's going to creep towards other African countries. And by the time it will turn around 7 African countries, when we come out of the arches, we will come strong and come better.
Wow, we become strong and of course we become better, because right now in Sudan they've agreed to share power due to the protest and all of that. If you take a look at what happened also in Egypt, in Tunisia, you just name it, it's like in Algeria, protest.
Yeah, my brother.
Is this the beginning of the end of Lunga's presidency? Because right now the man is sitting almost, so it's getting very, very hot and uncomfortable.
Yes.
Which is a very welcome development, which other African countries that are also being bedeviled by the plague of corruption should want to do well to follow suit. Because at the end of the day, all human beings are meant to be equal before the eyes of God and before the eyes of the Lord. I believe this is well, if he's a wise man, he will do the right thing and gradually look for how to relinquish power and see that they curb what corruption. But of course, in the nature of Africans, we love power and we believe it's our birthright to stay there till we die. So this is just the beginning of a series of protests yet to come. In my view, this is the beginning of a series of protests, because no African man will live without being forcefully pushed out of office. So if the people of Zambia, they've gotten to that point where they feel they can no longer take it, they are dying from hardship, systemic poverty, and they are ready to cry out or die in place of crying out, they will continue to cry out until the man is forced to relinquish power, so that there will be peace in the country. Because if he was doing the right thing, if he was doing the needful in the first place, the country would not have degenerated to this level whereby the people now realize that there is only one way out. They have to fight corruption. Corruption from the executive, corruption from all phases of government. So this is just the beginning of a series of protests which the man is going to experience from now on. I'm sure the city is going to be getting hotter and hotter, because when the people realize they've gotten to the wall, they say if you pursue a goat to the wall, instead of it to enter inside the wall, to turn back and fight you. That's what in this country is now being experienced. But unfortunately, in other African countries of the world, maybe because of their nature, when they even get to the wall, they enter inside the wall and they get buried and they die there. But it's better to fight back. At least you try to fight than to die fighting. And that is the point Zambia they have gotten to, and they have shown it. They have expressed it now by coming out in mass, both boys, both girls, both women, old and young, all protesting the hardship of them. Because at the end of the day, the resources of the nation is supposed to be to the benefit of the entire population, not for the benefit of a few political class. If there was no corruption, people will not be dying to hold political office in the country. That's the if you were going there to serve, the way other civilized countries they go to serve, when they discover that their policies are in adherence to the wishes of the people, they resign peacefully. If that was what was happening in other African countries, we will not be having this kind of politics of do or die, bedeviled with so much violence because of corruption, which is destroying the country. A few, they are taking the resources for their own private benefit. So until African nations follow this line and start peacefully, it's always good to start peacefully by registering their displeasure. It's only when this fails, then of course there are other more reasonable and legally acceptable ways of registering their displeasure to force the government to do the right thing for the benefit of the population. That is the essence of any functioning and democratically elected government.
All right, now do you see them calling for the resignation of Edward Lunga?
What else do you think they are pushing for? He's going.
As an African man, a president will leave because of this protest. Okay.
One thing you should remember, that the man who he took over for did not hand over to him. You should remember that. It is as a result of that that he took over.
What are you not saying? Are you a prophet of doom for Edward Lunga?
I am not prophet. I am just saying that it's just two ways. The people who are governing say we do not want you. He said that you peacefully or honorably resigns, because you will definitely live there. So I pray that it doesn't get to that point where he may not know how he left office. I pray it doesn't get there. Because the fact is that it is shameful that you live in the country, somebody who is supposed to be the symbol of your country, and its government as a whole, the only name that is known to them, the tag they carry, is corruption. That to the fact that they don't bother on how you survive, they don't bother on how you exist, they don't think on what will happen to the country even after them, they don't care about the people that they claim they are governing, and yet I will clap my hand and say, these are my leaders. Somebody who looked at it as, who looked and want to kill and drive the economy in every other way, without even thinking that I need a road to bring my farm produce from the village to the city, without even bothering that if I have a light to to run whatever I want to do, without even thinking on how my educational system is going, because if the educational system of a country that you govern is not proper and you are taking your child abroad, it's corruption. That is the worst corruption.
That's the worst corruption.
Yes,
according to you.
If you feel that the health facilities in your country is not good enough for a human being, and you not bother to think on how to resolve such issue, and you are taking yourself out of the country to where you can get a better equipment that you would have been able to provide, it is not just corruption; it is devilish. And the Bible says that death is the wages of every sinner. Let's go is the fact. So for me,
are you bringing the Bible to this discourse or how?
See, of course, that the majority of us believe in that. Both the Bible, both the Quran has never supported criminality, has never supported corruption. So of course, if we must trash it down. So for me, corruption is not just a sin. Corruption is not just an act, but it's devilish. It's like a man coming out to say that, see, I have come to live against you. I have come to drink at the detriment. I'm no longer thirsty of water. It is your blood I am thirsty of. And if you don't give me your blood, I will not survive. That is what it is when a leader who you have given the privilege to manage the affairs of your country, to manage you, to speak on your behalf, and to think on how you will survive. Of course, that is how you look at it. It's like a vampire who wants to kill me, because when I wake up and I want to travel, I enter a vehicle that is not supposed to be roadworthy, and yet a certain officer has given such a vehicle certificate of roadworthiness. I enter road and die. You are the one that killed me. Of course. So because when you look at corruption, it's in every faces. It's in every faces. So when the leader head is straight, of course everybody will turn to. I remember when President Muhammadu Buhari came into power. At the point, everybody, it showed the fear of say misintegrity has come. Everybody started trying to, because there's a signal that came. I don't know if you understand. There's a signal that came. But if you get to a point, I remember, if you get to a point where you know what your boss is doing, and I went to somewhere and the man, I was listening to them, they took the person outside and said that I can go and do it for you somewhere else. If my God do it for you, to be very expensive. And but meanwhile, it's a very cheap thing. So that's to say, even the Oga is a corruption. That's what gave him the boldness, to outsmart it. So corruption, my brother, is not, see, mouth when you take up corruption, you're not supposed to take and chop. It's true, because it's so bad to the point that it's like putting somebody down and dagger the person. That's what the bad part.
Watch your language now.
You know the bad part about it. By the time they amass so much wealth and make the country very ungovernable, not suitable for people to live in. As soon as they leave office, they are taking off to go. They come to visit the country once in a while. That is the bad aspect about it. Leaving we without an option, still going to queue behind, and it will get to a point that you even know them, they recycle themselves, and they bring them to you to come and vote for them. And the next thing you say, the thing that begin to console, say the devil is better than it's getting to the point that we are now looking helpless in Africa.
Africa by Africa, we'll get there eventually. It's all about Zambia's protest, the fight against fuel hike and corruption. They are crying about hyperinflation. They are crying about food shortage. They are crying about a hike in fuel price, and most of all, corruption in the system. They came out in March, putting on yellow shirts, saying this is yellow card for our government. Enough is enough. They came out in unity. Nobody pushed them, but the government said this is a protest organized by opposition. They call it yellow card. Madam, before we commence our descent on this show, what advice do you have for the Zambians and, of course, African leaders in African countries hearing the sound of our voice, watching us right now, either via their computer, their TV set, because we are global. What advice do you have for Africans?
Well, I want to say that the honorable people of Zambia, they have done very well. They have done well by realizing, first of all, that corruption is destroying them. And it's destroying them, the majority, the population, the masses. It is destroying them. They have done well by coming out to realize and coming out to start protesting. And they should continue until this corruption is curbed, until this fuel hike is reduced, until inflation is stopped. It's a way of killing the masses, destroying the masses. When you are making conditions of living unbearable and unattainable for the masses, until they realize that either they speak or they die, they should continue to speak instead of dying in silence. I think they have done well, and they should continue in that stride, because it is their right to live in a decent society. It's their right to live have a decent standard of living. And then I want to talk to other African countries, because this issue of corruption, it's a trend. It is prevalent in majority of the African countries, and Africans by nature, they are very good in accommodating. The average white man will not accommodate half of what the African man will accommodate. The African man is ready to accommodate till he dies. And you are seeing it in society. That's why you can see the high prevalence rates of suicide, unprecedented, as have never been heard of. All these are direct fallouts of hardship caused directly by corruption. What is corruption? Taking the wealth of the people and putting it in the hands of a few, forcefully, without their permission, depriving the others of their right to enjoy the benefits and resources of the country. And the fallout is what we are seeing now. People are dying in numbers. People are committing suicide almost every day. Even young ones are suffering from the scourge of corruption. Then you have health challenge. Health care is almost now inaccessible. It is very expensive. Cost of living, the cost of price in the country, in almost every African country, is escalating. And the masses, more than half of the masses, they are living under poverty line. In other words, you are telling them you may not be able to survive in this system. And the earlier they come together and realize and take a stand and fight collectively, because what we are now experiencing in African countries, like, it is bringing about different kinds of deviant behavior. That's why you have the prevalence of crime in society very, very high. Right. Kidnapping in an unprecedented way, ritual killing. Instead of these young ones to use their energies negatively, they should come together and come as a common voice and speak for the betterment of the nation, for the betterment of the African country.
Thank you so much, Barrister Edorogo. I really appreciate a wonderful analysis. Victor, your last line on this discourse, because our time is up.
Yes, I don't have too much to say. Zambians, you are doing the right thing. Continue. You are building your country again. If you die today, you have immortalized yourself, and it's even better. And I want to send a message to all African countries that what is happening there, put your house in order, because by the time you end there, it will catch in every other countries that are not living upright.
Thank you so much, Victor. I appreciate your points that you gave in course of this discourse. You've heard both of them. The Zambians, they protested. They are still protesting. Yellow card, yellow shirt, saying, our government, enough is enough. Now, you take a look at us. You are a leader, a president, a governor. You just name it. You've seen what is happening in Zambia. If you're not living right, do you want it to spread down to your domain? Food for thought. Bye for now.